Chelsea fans, welcome back to Talking Chelsea. Welcome back to your Chelsea news. Chelsea set a new asking price for Christopher Nkunku. Enzo Maresca is considered a master of rotation, and he's planning next season with Nicolas Jackson in mind. Not only that, but we have some Saudi interest in Renato Veiga, and Alejandro Garnacho is begging for a Chelsea move. Now, of course, I'll be giving my own thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported, but more importantly, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content. We're on the road to 10k before the end of 2025. Kicking things off, Kieran Gill has reported a Stamford Bridge insider described Enzo Maresca as a master of rotation, adding he does not have the best 11 nor does he desire one. He wants the best squad. He picks his team based on the tactical plan, the opposition, training and playing load. He goes on to report that Chelsea could yet receive offers for Nicolas Jackson, though Enzo Maresca is currently planning to have him compete with Delap as a striker again. Options while leaning on Pedro's versatility across the attack. He finishes the report by saying Chelsea do not simply want to have returned to the Champions League, they want to compete. I absolutely love this about Enzo Maresca. I love that the way that the fans have now embraced him and what he's achieved over this first season at Chelsea with his 2 trophies. We've seen his systems, the way he sets up, and yes, there's been times that have been very, very frustrating where he's been very rigid and stubborn and not changed things. However, he has adapted over time, which we know that he would have had to have done if he wanted any success at Chelsea. One thing we also love is this window's sort of incomings. The incomings this summer window have been perfect because they've been Enzo Maresca profiles that he needs to improve the current squad. He's settled the squad, incredible foundation. We're really looking to kick on next season. But with the likes of Santos coming in, Esteval, Asugo, Pedro, there's so many, Delap coming in. There are so many key positions that are being filled and strengthened. We've got Joel Hato now as a backup at left back. We're looking to secure Xavi Simons. There's obviously talks about Garnacho, who we're going to be talking about later on in the video. But across the board, our squad is looking very deep and it's looking very, very powerful going forward into next season. So I love the fact that the board, that whoever this insider is at Stamford Bridge, they see Enzo Maresca as a master of rotation. And I would intend to agree, because looking across the entire season, that's what he's done very heavily. He's had some very predictable and some unpredictable lineups across the season, but he's been heavy on his rotation and it's worked wonders. Other than the likes of Lavia and potentially Fofana, but Fofana was a bit of a sticky one because he had a lot of minutes, he then got injured, and then he basically rushed himself back and got injured for even longer. But Maresca has done incredibly well at keeping the likes of Reece James fit. Fofana in spells, again, we're only managing to give him like 45 minutes here and there. He's made a couple of games over that sort of 45-minute mark, and he stayed fit for a longer period of time. Nkunku stayed fit for a majority of the season, if not all of the season this season, which is wild. Anyone that seems to go off injured seems to recovers well and stays fit for longer periods. And that's all down to Maresca managing minutes, and he's been fantastic at doing that, especially with the wide players last season. There was always some sort of rotation, and at the start of last season everyone was complaining that we had such a big squad, and where are they going to train, where are they going to get changed, that type of thing from Carragher, etc. But I think Maresca did very, very well across the season with his rotation, so I think that's pretty fair. And I also like the fact that even though we spoke about Nicolas Jackson leaving Chelsea this summer and his future does kind of look written on the wall in terms of if we get a good offer, he's gone, I've also said I'd be more than happy for him to stay because it's a win-win for Chelsea, right? If we keep him, he's still a young player who's going to develop. This is the season he really needs to kick on. He's got 2 years of Premier League experience. He's got loads of GA in this team and in this league. We know what he can bring to the table. He just needs to refine them key things, which is his finishing and his discipline. If he does that, he's an unbelievable player. But in regards to all of his other styles of play, link-up play, the hold-up play, the way he can drive the ball from midfield, into the final thirds, we know that he's a fantastic player in that sense. So it's a win-win for Chelsea, and I like the fact that Maresca is planning ahead from his original plan, what he said when we signed Delap and Pedro, of we've now got 3 forwards, or we've got 2 number 9s that can rotate in Delap and Jackson. We knew that Delap was brought in to bring out competition and give competition to Jackson. I know the other day we spoke about Jackson saying he doesn't have competition, he knows his place in the squad, the manager's going to pick the best team, and you guys basically went crazy on me saying I've got an agenda against Jackson, which I don't. I was just saying from that I can see both sides of it, and I would personally like my strikers to say that I want to fight to be the number 1, I want to be the number 9, I want to be the best that we can, or I can, in this squad. That isn't to say that I want Jackson gone, by the way, just want to clear that up. But the whole idea of bringing Delap in is that Jackson's got competition, it can bring the best out of him. And for Maresca, he's then got options. You can have João Pedro, who could play as a 9, who brings something very, very different to Delap. Delap could play as a number 9, who does something very different to Nicolas Jackson. And he's got Nicolas Jackson, who could play as a 9, who does something very different to the other 2. So it just gives him so many dynamics with this very fluid attacking system that he's inbuilt. Now, when it comes to Chelsea not wanting to simply return to the Champions League and compete, I love this sentiment. I so love it. We are back. That is the only way I can describe it. We are back with these sorts of, the comments, the mentality, the way it's shifted, the fact that we won 2 trophies now, Colwell coming out and saying some serious stuff, Reece James, Palmer, Tosin, all these players within our squad that are saying that we have an elite mentality, we want to win, we're hungry, we're not just finished now, we want to kick on and win more and more. And I feel like the Champions League is the epitome of European football, right? It's the best competition you can be in. Chelsea have won it twice. I've been lucky enough to see both of those wins, and it's just the Champions League without Chelsea is not the same. There are 2 teams in English football that make the Champions League so much better. That is Chelsea and Liverpool, because both of these teams have European heritage, and we do so well and bring in the excitement and the unpredictability into these competitions. I mean, Liverpool obviously won it 5-6 times. Chelsea won it twice. We've also got European heritage by winning the entire set of UEFA trophies. There's just something about European nights at Stamford Bridge, Chelsea being in the Champions League. We are right now, we are very well set up to be an incredibly tough to beat knockout football team. This season we are going to be tested across the Premier League. It's 9 months of football, 38 games. It's a very different style and format than to say the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, the Champions League with the league and knockout phases. But I feel like the way that Maresca sets up, and we saw this in the Club World Cup, in a shorter and condensed format, it was like 7 games, right? Chelsea are very well set up right now with the balance and dynamic of the squad to really go on in knockout games, knockout competitions. Then one-off games where it is they're setting up this way, we're going to completely throw the rule book out, we're going to play this way to beat these guys. Whereas, again, I feel like Maresca's going to do that in the Premier League, but it's a longer, stretched-out campaign. I still think we can do very well in the Premier League, don't get me wrong, but I feel like the Champions League and the domestic cups, this is where Chelsea are really going to thrive this season under Enzo Maresca. Obviously, I still want us to have a very good league run, who doesn't, but I feel like, as of right now, that's where we're best suited. Cup competitions right now, the fact that Chelsea want to go as far as they can in the Champions League and compete, just, again, adds to that sentiment of, like, we're not here just to earn the money, just to qualify, just to be a top 4 team. We're in it because we want to win it. That's what we're doing. We're not just going to settle for qualification. We want to go as far as we can. If that's the quarters, so be it. We give it our all. If it's the final and we win, amazing. If it's the semis and we crash out, fair enough. We aren't just going to be in it to then drop out and qualify just for the TV rights. And I absolutely love that, because that's what Chelsea is about. It's about winning trophies, and it's about creating a legacy. And these players have now got this elite mindset around the club. The culture is so much different now. What we used to seeing under Abramovich and previous managers, and it's been very turbulent under the new ownership until Maresca has come in and settled that ship. So I absolutely love this. Now I would love to know your guys' thoughts and opinions down below. How far do you think Chelsea can go in the Champions League this season? Do you feel like we're better set up for a league domestic campaign or for the European competitions and cup competitions in terms of knockout football? And what are your thoughts on Enzo Maresca being a master of rotation and also planning next season with Nicolas Jackson in mind? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. L'Equipe have reported that Christopher Nkunku wants to leave Chelsea, and the club have set his price around £35 million. Inter Milan have already contacted his representatives to discuss a potential transfer, and Nkunku has a lot of interest from mid-table clubs in the Premier League, but the player wants to play at a top club. Now, this doesn't surprise me that there are a lot of mid-table clubs that are coming in for Nkunku, and it wouldn't surprise me if Nkunku wanted to stay in the Premier League, because it is the best league in the world for intensity and work rate and just, global eyes watching, the money involved in it. However, I do respect the fact, and again, I will always, credit where it's due. You guys all told me in the comments about the fact that the World Cup's next year. That's a massive sort of mentality shift for a lot of players who want to secure their spot in the national side. Christopher Nkunku wants to be playing at the top. He wants Champions League football. Fair enough, because we know that when he is playing at his best, he is an unbelievable player. We just haven't seen it in long stretches at Chelsea, unfortunately. So one thing I found interesting is I know that L'Equipe is sometimes hit or miss, right? They're either well off the mark or they're bang on the money. Chelsea have already come out and said that they're setting their valuation for Felix and Nkunku at 43.3 million, which is a very obscure amount, if I'm being brutally honest. And now L'Equipe are saying that they've reduced that to 35 million. Now, I wouldn't disbelieve that, because I feel like 35 million is a lot more affordable for a lot of other clubs. However, like I have said in many videos in this transfer window, with players having inflated prices and players like Nolly going for over 50 million and João Felix being sold for 48 million and Hugo for 95 million euros, there's just a lot of money being thrown around. I feel like Chelsea could quite comfortably get 40 to 45 million for Nkunku in this specific window because of that. So if Chelsea are reducing it to 35 million, that does tick a lot of boxes for a lot of Serie A clubs. because they don't have as much capital as Premier League clubs. And that's just a fact, right? It's just one of those things that we've seen across European football. And obviously, we know that Nkunku's on higher wages. I feel like he would either match the wages or reduce them to get the move away, because he's thought he's going to be on the World Cup next year and being a regular for his national side. And also, if he wants to play at a top club playing a Champions League football and Inter Milan are knocking on the door, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. Now, Inter Milan have actually said that the transfer fee shouldn't be an issue. It's just the wages. It should, as long as they can get that over the line. But if the reports are now coming out saying it's like 35 million, I mean, I'd still take it, to be honest, because we want him gone. I'd love to see Nkunku stay. There's this romanticised version for me personally that I want it to work for Nkunku at Chelsea, but realistically, he's going to be sold this summer, and I'm okay with that. It is what it is, right? It just is what it is. Players come and go a lot at Chelsea Football Club. However, I want to try and get as much money as we can for him as possible, because, we don't want to be making a loss. We've made a lot of profit in this window, which is amazing to see. But at the same time, I don't want to be letting a player of Nkunku's quality go on the cheap. It makes no sense for us. It always seems to be we are on the receiving end on trying to buy players at a premium, and then when we come to sell them, we have to reduce our fees. Now, of course, in this window, we've seen that on the flip side. Well, it's been quite fair, really, where we have sold the likes of João Felix for high money and Noni Madueke for higher money, which is great to see. I want that to continue, because every other club does this. They sell their players for a premium price, and then clubs come in and pay it. It's as simple as that. Chelsea need to stick to their, dig their heels in and continue to do that and get the premium that they can for their players. However, I feel like 35 million isn't the end of the world for Nkunku. I would much rather it be around 40 plus. But we'll soon see how this develops. So I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below. Do you feel like Nkunku will be going to Inter Milan, or do you feel like there could be more wages or a higher transfer fee from Chelsea's perspective if he goes to a mid-table Premier League club? I personally feel like he will go for Inter Milan. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I feel like it makes a lot of sense for all parties. They're obviously looking for a player like Nkunku, and Nkunku wants to leave Chelsea now. So let me know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding Nkunku leaving Chelsea this summer. Where does he end up? Secret source reported an exclusive saying, as almost called a week ago, Al-Nassr's interest in Renato Veiga is moving. The Saudi club are planning to open club-to-club talks with Chelsea for the Portuguese talent. Veiga is highly admired internally at Al-Nassr following the collapse of the Hanko deal. From what I'm hearing, Al-Nassr are not prepared to meet Chelsea's €40 million valuation, but the Blues are currently holding firm. Veiga's position remains unclear, but Al-Nassr believe the Portuguese core could help sway him, one to keep an eye on. And Ben Jacobs has reported this morning Renato Veiga has new Saudi interest after Atletico move fell through. Now, we looked at Secret Source before around the Xavi move, the Xavi Simons and the Joel Hato move, about the predictions, and sometimes this guy's bang on the money or super early, sometimes he's off, right? He's a relatively new source, right? But I found it very interesting that he's speaking about this in depth a week ago, and I thought nothing of it. But then this morning we have more reliable journalists, and especially someone like Ben Jacobs, coming in saying, yep, there's actually Saudi interest in Renato Veiga, which kind of backs up what he's saying a little bit more. So I thought this was very interesting to react to and get your guys' thoughts and opinions below regarding Renato Veiga, because it's such a shame that Chelsea dug their heels in. Which is, I think they did the right thing. We were so close to getting around £40 million for Renato Veiga to go Atletico Madrid. Atletico wanted to reduce that a little bit, and Chelsea were like, nah, mate, 40 mil. They then go get Hanko, which is a completely cheaper package for a different player. And now we're kind of like, okay, we are looking to offload Renato Veiga for profit. Maybe Chelsea were being a little bit too greedy with what they were asking for. I personally think get what you can. The game's the game. However, Saudi are now interested in Renato Veiga. We've just sold João Felix to Al-Nassr. So are Saudi going to come in and save us and take this, get a swoop in and go, do you know what? We won't give you €40 million, but we'll give you €35 million. And we'll take him off your hands, because we've just signed João Felix as well. Could be another deal like the João Felix one, where it might be a little bit less upfront, but a load of add-ons, easy achieved add-ons, to then bulk up that price and that transfer fee over time. That would be pretty cool, if I'm being honest. Now, again, Renato Veiga is a player who was here for a very short period. I really liked him. I thought he played very well in the limited minutes that he got, and I wish that he would be staying at Chelsea. It's just unfortunate that Veiga has made it pretty clear he wants to play as a centre-back and not as a left-back, because when we bought him from Basel for, peanuts, it was like 12, 14 million euros just last summer, which is wild when you think about how fast we're shifting some of these players. He was bought as a Swiss Army knife style player that can play centre-back, left-back, or as a DM, like as that number 6 role. And we've seen him being utilised in all three of those positions, and he was instantly a fan favourite, the way he got, the passion he was showing, how much he said he wanted to be at Chelsea, and just sort of how present he was in games and how much he got stuck in. The fans loved it. And to be honest, I'd love to have seen him stay at Chelsea and really kick on. And it is just a shame he doesn't want to play the positions that Maresca would want to utilise him at, and he does want that centre-back position. But I also respect it. If he wants to be a centre-back as his primary position, fair enough. That's just what he wants to do as the professional athlete. Now, obviously, he did have his loan move to Juventus in January. Started incredibly well, did pick up an injury. So I was actually quite surprised that Juventus weren't going to come in and say, actually, he was really good. Can we take him on a permanent? But again, it could be a money side. Chelsea might have already had them conversations that weren't public and just gone, yeah, you can keep him for X amount. And they've gone, nah, we ain't paying that. You never really know. So the fact that Saudi are interested is amazing, because there's this agenda that Saudi just basically fund everything to do with Chelsea in terms of the transfers. And that's how we get these ridiculous fees. When in reality, I think we've only just broke even with all the transfers that we have done with Saudi, when you include the João Felix deal, because of what we've lost on other assets that we've sold to Saudi. That was a hard sentence to say. Sold to Saudi over time, like the likes of Kante went on a free, and we lost money on Mendy and Koulibaly, etc. So I think this would be awesome, because it's just another sale, a higher price. So it is, again, massive profit for Chelsea to get Renato Veiga over to Saudi. Obviously, they've got the likes of Ronaldo, the likes of João Felix. I don't know what other Portuguese players they've got at the moment, off the top of my head anyway, but then adding Renato Veiga into that as well. Veiga has come out and said that he is also thinking about the World Cup, and he hasn't locked down a starting position for Portugal, and that's one of his main thoughts. And maybe going to Saudi, he might not be able to secure that as easy. I don't really know. I don't really know how these international managers are viewing the Saudi league currently. You have the likes of Thomas Tuchel that was saying, Ivan Toney scored loads of goals in the Saudi league. So it's like they do monitor their players, of course, but how much do they weigh the Saudi league compared to other European leagues, right? So it'd be very interesting to see how this pans out. Do you feel like Renato Veiga will be going to Saudi? Will they be coming in, swooping and putting a fat check down for Chelsea around that 40 million euros, maybe 35 million euros with add-ons? Or does this fall through and we try and sell Renato Veiga to another European club? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. I would love to know your thoughts. Fabrizio Romano posted out on Instagram yesterday that Alejandro Garnacho and Xavi Simons only want Chelsea, and this screenshot has been doing the rounds because Garnacho himself has liked the post. And on the 24th of July, Secret Source posted breaking news. Chelsea have made contact with Alejandro Garnacho's camp recently, and the player is more than keen on a move to Stamford Bridge. He would arrive as direct competition for Jamie Gittins, effectively ending the pursuit of Morgan Rogers. This move does not impact the agreement in the place for Xavi Simons, as exclusively revealed here first. A potential Garnacho deal also points to a concrete possibility of Nicolas Jackson joining Manchester United. Chelsea have no intention of paying the €60 million valuation, as they believe they can land a top player at a cut price given Manchester United's financial pressure. Win Stanley is on it. And then this morning, Fabrizio Romano had reported that Garnacho has given his total priority to Chelsea. Talks took place on the player side. No negotiations yet with Manchester United, as price will be a key factor. Timing of the deal is not expected to be imminent, can take some time with Chelsea focused on outgoings plus Xavi Simons. Again, this is about when it's going to happen, not if it's going to happen with Alejandro Garnacho. And there's quite a few things to unpack here. Like I said to you in yesterday's video with Xavi Simons taking out RB Leipzig from the bio, or his Instagram bio, and people kind of looking into that. It's a similar thing with this. Garnacho liked Fabrizio Romano's post about saying that Garnacho and Xavi Simons only want Chelsea. It's kind of like it adds fuel to the fire, adds to the hype that people publicly can see. Like, oh, Garnacho's actually like this. He obviously really wants Chelsea. And we can clearly see this. This has been going on since January, and Fabrizio's tweeted about 4,000 things about Garnacho. It's going to Chelsea. You're hearing it now. Don't forget this, don't forget that. Garnacho. And I get it. The game is the game, right? But one thing I find very interesting now is even with the likes of Secret Source, like I said, I don't know how reliable this guy is, but the two things that he's posted that we spoke about in today's video a week ago have now been confirmed by incredibly reliable journalists today. So it seems like there are definitely something in there between the two. If you put them both together, you can read between the lines, right? So obviously talks have taken place between Chelsea and Garnacho's reps, and Garnacho's like, yes, get me out of United, send me to Chelsea. But there's no club-to-club talks as of yet. Which makes sense, right? Because Chelsea do not want to pay any more than £30 million, and Manchester United want a minimum of £40 million. That's a £10 million deviation or separation or difference, right? So that is what's going to take the time. And obviously Fabrizio said the timing of the deal is not expected to be imminent. Fair enough. This isn't something that's going to happen overnight. There's still a lot of Chelsea fans who don't want to see this transfer happen. Well, my original thoughts were, I don't want Garnacho at Chelsea. My thoughts right now is, I don't want Garnacho at Chelsea. However, I'm always fair, open, and try and see both sides of things. And I've given my opinion on this deal of saying that I understand that if it's going to happen, obviously we can't control it. And I will back Garnacho if he puts on a Chelsea shirt, because I always back a Chelsea player till they give me a reason not to. However, I would personally much rather, if this was going to, well, I say if it's going to happen, it definitely is. It's a matter of when this happens. It would be a Chelsea Jadon Sancho 2.0. I would be so over the moon with that, because it would be a loan option with an obligation to buy. There is no pressure on the club, the player. It's a try before you buy. And if he does really well, pay the money. If he doesn't, send him back. Cool. I just find that to be the easiest deal. But Manchester United want him gone permanently. They're not going to do another one of those deals. Fair enough. I just don't understand, and this is me personally, I'd love to know your thoughts below. I don't see the fascination with Garnacho. I understand he's young. I know he's got a lot of talent. He's got high potential. There's also fans have got a lot of concerns about his discipline and his ego and his attitude. Now, they said similar things with Jadon Sancho when he was at United. Is United just the toxic environment that these players, it brings the worst out of them? They said the same about Rashford. Rashford goes to Aston Villa. Look at an unbelievable professional he was there. He's now made that move to Barcelona. Jadon Sancho comes to Chelsea. He trains very hard. He's always very happy. Works, just wants to play football. Incredible professional at Chelsea. So is United the environment that's bringing this out of the players? Who really knows? I'm more inclined to say yes, and that's not to throw shade at United. We know that club's on fire right now for many different reasons, and it's going to be something that needs to take time to rebuild and get sorted. In the meantime, we can laugh at that, let's be fair, as rival fans. So over time, look, people are getting worn down with this Garnacho thing. It's like, oh, it's inevitable, it's going to happen, whatever. And some people are really starting to go, actually, this makes a lot of sense, and, he'd be a great signing, he's a great player. I've never disputed that he has a lot of potential and he does have a lot of talent. I just don't understand how he improves the squad. However, with what Secret Source is saying, it does make a lot of sense in the fact that he would be a backup left winger to Jamie Gittins. Now, if he is that, amazing, because we have so much depth in that attacking front four that he probably won't get much game time unless he is performing to a very high level. We have Mykhailo Mudryk on the books. He can't play, he's suspended. And I would put Garnacho in the position of Mudryk, where he was only playing as a rotational player to build up his confidence and obviously develop. Garnacho would be a very similar thing. We've got the likes of Pedro Neto who can play both sides. João Pedro who could play on the left. Xavi Simons, if and when we get that over the line, he can play on the left, he can play as a 10, he can play on the right. You've got Esteval Willian who plays mainly on the right, wants to play centrally. Palmer can play on the right as well, and obviously mainly in that central areas. You've got Gittins that plays on the left predominantly. So it makes sense that we go get someone like Garnacho as a market opportunity. And I think that's the only reason that Chelsea is so heavily interested, is they understand the potential he has and they think that we can get him for such a cheap price. I'm not trying to be worn down over time and accept the fact and be like, yeah, I can't wait, I'm buzzing, I'm excited. Because I'll be lying if I said I was excited about this. I'm really not. This does nothing for me. I'm just like, Garnacho, cool, all right, I suppose we'll see how it goes. Because at the same time, I don't control the transfers as much as you guys don't, right? I just like to speak about it from both sides. I've given my opinion. I don't particularly want Garnacho at Chelsea. I'm going to stay on that. I'm standing on business from that perspective because that's what I said originally. That's what I'm saying now. I've just notified and seen other sides of this situation where I can go, that actually makes sense, or potentially that could work. And a lot of you guys, not specifically, but in the fan base, have changed their position. There's nothing wrong with that. People change their opinions all the time. We grow as humans. But I'm very curious to know your thoughts on this Garnacho deal, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when this happens. Does it make sense for Chelsea to get Garnacho for around £30 million because it's cheap and it's a good market opportunity and he would be good backup for someone like Gittins? Or do you feel like he can come in, make an instant impact and be our starting left winger? I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions, because like I said, this is just I find it a wild transfer saga that's been going on, because from the start, a lot of us went, why do we want, well, that's so random. Why do we want Garnacho? And as time's gone on, it's kind of like, well, there's a position for him to fill. It's a market opportunity. It could be quite cheap for us. And then again, if it doesn't work out in a few years, we can flip him for profit. So that's like the massive positive out of it, I suppose. If we do get him for lower than £40 million, even at £40 million, I still think that we can flip him for profit in a few years if it doesn't work out. But at the same time, he's only 20 years old. There is a long time for him to develop. We're saying that players come into their developed years around 23, 24. That's 3 years away from him. Not saying that you get 3 years at Chelsea. It's very, very rare that players get 3+ years at Chelsea to show what they can do, unless they are showing a steady improvement, right? Nicolas Jackson, for example, his first season was good, but we could see that he needed to improve. This season, he showed improvements in key areas, but let him down as a big injury and a bit of discipline at the end of the season. But he's been given that extra year, and he's part of the plan that Enzo Maresca has planned ahead for next season with him involved. It's very rare that you see players going on 4, 5, 6 years without developing at all or showing why they should be there, because Chelsea's a club where if you're not performing, you get moved on. The other thing to note is Garnacho is absolutely begging this Chelsea move. He's well, not just the Chelsea move, he's begging to leave Manchester United. There was an Instagram post of him wearing an Aston Villa shirt recently that caused massive uproar with the fans saying, like, what are you doing, blah, 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 this guy wants to leave, he's toxic, blah, blah, blah. We know that his brother causes a storm on socials, whatever it may be. But Garnacho is begging for this Chelsea move. And I don't blame him. If he wants to leave the club, he wants to leave the club. He's trying to do everything he can. He's also very young. He's going to be young and immature and make mistakes because that's what kids do, right? But it's just one thing to note, that Garnacho is absolutely begging this move to Chelsea. And I don't blame him, because Chelsea are offering massive contracts and decent incentivised wages. So in terms of a player at 20 years old, I'll go get a 7-year deal at Chelsea. I'll go get to live in London, play Champions League football, play for the current world champions, get a 7-year deal, sit on money that's either matching what I'm at or a little bit better, with incentivised breaks to improve my wages as and when I perform to the best of my ability. It makes so much sense for Garnacho. So it's just another thing to consider, that he is absolutely begging this move to Chelsea, which I find very strange. I find it very, very strange why Chelsea of all places, but I suppose he's seeing other youngsters going to Chelsea. Maybe he really is invested in the project because other players of similar age around him have gone there, and maybe they're saying, hey, this is a place to be. Or, maybe Enzo Fernandez is kind of be like, yo, you want to be coming here. Everyone's a similar age. We're all growing together. It's vibed. We're winning things. It makes a lot of sense. But Garnacho is begging this move desperately. So I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions regarding Garnacho to Chelsea. Just in general, were you originally not a fan, now a fan of the move? Do you think it's a market opportunity? Do you feel like he could be a very good backup left winger? Do you feel like he could be a starting left winger? Very curious to know your thoughts down below. And that's the latest Chelsea news. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported down below in the comment section. I love having a conversation with you guys. And if you haven't watched this video all the way to the end, firstly, you're a real one, and I mean that, you're a real one. But secondly, there'll be a thumbnail appears on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you click that thumbnail because you'll enjoy that video too.